Welcome back to the 2 Months Podcast presented by BioSteel. I'm your host, Joshua Marshall. My co host with me tonight is a good friend, and that is Phil Stockley. Phil, how's it going?
Going well. Can't complain. Getting back to work this week kind of sucks, but getting to come on and do stuff like this really brightens up my day.
It does. It does. And yeah, we got a great guest, and we'll break it all down after we do the interview. But a huge honor, bucket list, all that stuff. My favorite player growing up, the reason why I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, Doug Gilmour on the podcast today. And how excited are you, Phil, for this interview?
Well, this guy here, he scored the Stanley Cup winning goal in 1989, and that's a pretty important one for me.
Yeah.
Calgary Flames one and only Stanley Cup. I can't wait to ask him about that and how that one felt. So really, really excited about this. When you brought it up in the chat, it was kind of a must do for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. And we won't ramble on any longer. We're going to get to our interview with Dougie Gilmour right now. Drill. Mutts fans, our next guest played 1,474 NHL regular season games, where he went on to rack up over 400 goals, actually 450 goals, 964 assists for over 1,300 points. He also played 182 games in the playoffs and had over 188 points. He went on to win the Canada Cup and also the Stanley Cup. He also won the Frank J. Selke Award in 1993, and he got the call to the Hall as he got inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2011. We'd like to welcome Doug Gilmour to the 2 Months Podcast. Dougie, how's it going?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, man. It's a huge honor, man. It's as we're saying just before we hit record here. It's I'm a diehard Leafs fan here in Edmonton, Alberta, and you're the reason why I'm a Leaf fan. And we'll get into all that talk as we get going here. And I can't thank you enough. But how's things going with you? I know things are going to get pretty busy for you here, but how are things right now in your neck
No
of the woods?
things, yeah, no things are great. It's about 2 degrees here, so it's not bad. I'm in Burlington, Ontario, and I'm sitting outside my man cave getting ready to watch the game after we're done the interview, and it's just through COVID and everything else, there's payback time, and so it was a busy summer last year, and now we're getting busy again, so it's good.
Yeah, nice, nice. Before we kind of jump into your career here, we can't thank our good friend Mike Fuda enough for setting this interview up. Talk about your kind of relationship with foods and how much he means to you. He's a beauty to us, and I love the guy. And how much does he mean to you, Doug?
I guess you know what. I'm glad to be a part of this, but he called me last night
Yeah,
and said, "Hey, can you do me a favor?" And no, Futes is great. Again, it's a well-established guy. Did great in LA, obviously, and
yeah,
hopefully gets back in the league at some point in time. But he's been a good friend, and that's all I can say. He's awesome.
yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, he's a beauty for sure. So, Phil, we'll throw it to you, and we'll do some minor hockey talk with our with Killer here.
Yeah, so I was asked to kind of touch with you on minor hockey and where did it all start for you? Like when like as far back as you can remember. Like I got kids right now, they're playing U11 and U7 and it's honestly it's the best. Like as a dad, like I love going to the rink and watching them play. So where did it start for you?
Well, I was born and raised in Kingston, Ontario, and I was probably 3, 4 years old. My brother played in London Knights with Daryl Sittler, Dan Maloney, and my brother was my idol, kind of growing up, and he played in the minors for about 7 years. Actually, Grapes coached him in Rochester, and Grapes always said, he goes, "Your brother was so much better than you," just just to say,
Yeah,
and but in a good way because he had all the skill. I guess the biggest thing with my brother back in the days, he didn't like criticism through coaches and management. So instead of sucking it up, he said more or less whatever. So um, again, I grew up in Kingston, like I said. Don Cherry's coach of the Boston Bruins, and we have Rick Smith and Wayne Cashman that played in Boston. And I wore number 4. I was a defenseman growing up in minor hockey. I got drafted to junior as a defenseman. And so, number 4, Bobby Orr, number 4, Doug Gilmour. So that's how I kind of put it. And it was something that, again, I got drafted as a defenseman to Cornwall. And in reality, the guy that drafted me, Gordy Woods, he's a Kingston guy. And they won the Memorial Cup that year, the year before me, with Dale Howard-Chuck and Scotty O'Neill, and the list goes on with the players there, Danny Daou. And so I weighed in at 140 pounds in training camp, and they said, by the way, you're a centerman. And so in reality was I'm back in the zone as a defenseman, and you're back in the zone as a centerman, so you can see the whole ice. So hang on one second, guys.
Yeah, no worries.
My dog's barking.
It's okay.
Out here.
It fits in with the podcast. The 2 mutts, we got the bark. It's all good.
No, there's a raccoon outside.
Oh, okay.
And Sonia, can you take her in, please? Trying to catch her. So I apologize.
No, it's all good.
It's all good.
But it's something that I got to crawl, and again, won the World Cup the year before, and the leadership was Dale Howard-Chuck. And I played against Dale since I was 7 years old, from Kingston to Oshawa, and got to play with him in junior, and he was awesome. So again, it was something that, you don't know if you can make it, but at the same time, I think it was my 7th game in the league. I broke my collarbone. I got cross-checked into the post, and those posts didn't move in those days. And at the end of the day, it worked out well. And then, the next year, Scotty O'Neill left, and Dale Howard-Chuck, and I had a chance to be number 1 center, and it kind of took off from there.
That's awesome. I was just wondering, like, while you were saying that, at what year or age did you kind of start to stand out as a hockey player, and people might have said, like, this kid could probably go somewhere?
Well, I don't really think a lot of people said that because of my size, and the criticism on my side, like, for me, it promoted me as far as, okay, really, you think I'm small? And it's like, when you put your equipment on, you don't feel small.
Yeah.
So it's in my book. My dad taught me a really good lesson when I was probably 12 years old. Again, our league was up here, Belleville, Kingston, Trenton, Oshawa, and Peterborough. That was it. So we had a game, and I had 3 goals that night, or kind of afternoon in those days. And so get home, I go to get my equipment out of the car. My dad says, leave it there. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you had 3 goals tonight. Everything came natural, but you didn't do it. You didn't work hard. So we're playing again the next day. I didn't get a point, and I walked right in the house, and my dad said, get your equipment. It's the best game I've ever seen you play. You worked hard today. So
wow.
Taught me a quick lesson.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so, you get drafted to St. Louis. How much did that mean to you? And, getting, going through that process and, finally making it. Obviously, when you get drafted, that's a big part of the work, but obviously getting to, play some games there, and a great 5 years there. But talk about, the chance to, to kind of hone your craft with the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, it's I got drafted in the 7th round, and it was like I had a chip on my shoulder. And going back into training camp in Cornwall my last year, there's a guy that played in the league, played with Winnipeg, Mike Eagles, and I got in a fight with him. I think it was my 2nd game in the league, my third year, sorry. And he's a lefty and I'm a lefty. I didn't know he was a lefty. And he broke my nose and cheekbone. And it was like, okay, I guess I better not fight that much and
Yeah.
try to play the game. So um, I, I had a great year. I had 177 points my last year. And it was kind of surreal year. And then I didn't sign, like, I went to Germany. I think it was the first week of August. It was transition of Rolston Perina selling the team in St. Louis. They didn't have a GM. They didn't have anything that kind of was going on. So I didn't have a contract. So I'm in Dusseldorf for about 2 weeks, training that team. And, they offered me to sign. And then I got a call from my agent, Larry Kelly, out of Ottawa. And he goes, leave your equipment there. Just get home. Do not sign anything there. So I took off, jumped on a plane, and a week later I signed with St. Louis. Ron Caron came in as a GM, and Jacques Demers was the coach. And pretty much, Jacques looking at me. I'm 160 pounds, and he goes, "We have Bernie Federico, we have Guy Chouinard, we just signed, we have Blake Dunlop, Larry Patey, Alain Lemieux, which is Mario's brother, and it's like, can you check?"
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah. So you know what? For 3 years, I was averaged around 52 points a year, but I got to play against the best players in the league. Denny Savard, Marcel Dion in those days, obviously Gretz.
Yeah.
And it's something that it taught me. And then towards the end of my third year, I got an opportunity to play power play and different things, and things changed. But it was a great experience. And Brian Sutter was my roommate for 5 years. And you know what? Out of all the Sutters, he was the toughest.
Yeah.
And so, how people say, don't take the game home with you? He said, take the game home with you. And he was so intimidating. And it's just one of those things that I can't say enough about him, because he taught me how to compete each and every night.
Yeah, he's very special. We've had Brent on a few times with us, and obviously with our connection to hockey here in Alberta, and obviously them being the gods out here with the hockey world, and in that mindset, it's just beautiful to see and beautiful to hear that someone like that was a person that took you in. And and I agree, take the game home with you, because I never got to any really high level, but the level I got to is I was always like, I want to take the game home with me, and it was always number 93 for me. So
yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so
awesome.
No, it's everything is 93 on in my household here. But before I throw to Phil, because he's a big Flames fan here, and he wants to talk about going to Calgary. But to get that two-way game, you kind of talked about it, Dougie, with learning the defensive side when you're young, playing defense, and then transitioning into being one of the best centers in the game, and going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. But was there one of the mentors, like some of the coaches that you had in St. Louis, that got you to really hone that too? Obviously, you talked about some of the players, but Jacques Demers was one of the coaches there. How much did it mean to you to have him as a head coach?
Well, again, the days were different, guys.
Yeah.
And it was a respect factor that you didn't go out of your way to hit somebody, because it's going to be a bench clearing brawl. And so you had to understand the game was so different, and it was mean, it was tough. And going into games for me personally, and I'm going to fast forward this when I'm in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of the better players, and it's like, okay, we're playing against Chicago. Chelios is going to run me every shift. Steve Smith's going to take my head off. Marchman's going to take my knee out. Dave Manson's going to take my head off. So it's like, this is what you got to get prepared for before a game. And so, but again, Jacques Demers gave me the opportunity to learn the defensive game. And Jacques Martin came in after, and that's when the fitness side of it came in too, which was a little bit different. Back in those early days, we were in training camp for 2 weeks before we played a game. We're doing 2 days, and it sucked. So, but that's how you got in shape. So, as far as the coaching side, there's so many coaches that had for your career that kind of push you the right way. And sometimes you didn't like certain coaches, but at the same time, I got to say all the coaches, because you got to perform.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing. So Pat Burns was unbelievable. Terry Chris was great. Jacques Lemaire was probably fundamentally the best coach. He started the trap. And when I got traded from Toronto to Jersey, this is our game plan. So it was pretty much Red Rover. Come on, guys. And my first game, I'm playing in Long Island, and I think I had a goal and 3 assists when I got traded out of Toronto. And I'm playing with Billy Guerin and Brian Rolston. So as soon as the puck comes and we turn it over, we're gone. And it's kind of crazy that we didn't score more goals. But again, we were kind of hidden. We're just, come on, come to us. And then if you throw it in, you get it past us. There's a guy named Martin Brodeur that would throw it right back to us. So he was probably the smartest coach that I ever had. And but again, I thank all of them, because everybody's got their own game plan and different ways, and it's something that you grow into and you adapt.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful, man. That's what's the beautiful side of the game is, we had just John Scott on just recently, and he played 286 games, but he talked about every place he was in the right place at the right time, because he had the right coaches around him that believed in him. And it talked about what you just talked about with your dad there is, the hard work ethic. If you worked hard, you earned that. So
yeah. And John's such a great guy. I've done a lot of stuff with him with Andrew Jackson's events with Easter Seals. So I got to play against him, and I don't play anymore. I go to the events as a coach slash, because as I said, I'm turning 60. I hadn't played in 3 years, when obviously COVID and everything else, and I put my skates on for the first time the other day. It was like I was Bambi.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, where did this go?
Yeah.
So again, I'm trying to play a little bit more, and not at a high level at all.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking, don't come near me.
Comeback tour or what?
No, don't come near me, because I can't get out of the way. And so again, it's a game that I love, and we all love, obviously. Yeah. And again, it's just I retired at 40 years old, and all of a sudden 20 years went by after retirement, and it's crazy.
Phil and I are left wingers and right wingers, so we have a ball hockey team. So if we ever need a center, we might.
Well, that might be different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we might have to get you a contract, get you a center. But Phil, I'll pass it on to you, and you can go down the memory lane with the Stanley Cup run and the Calgary Flames tour.
So you get traded to the Flames at the beginning of the year of 1988. I have a really cool piece I was going to show you. You can't see it because of this background, but it's I got the actual game sheets from Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and just some of the names on that list are unreal. Like, this team was stacked.
Yeah.
Who were some of the guys on that team that maybe weren't talked about so much, and maybe
let me tell you a story.
You could touch on.
Let me tell you a story how I got traded to Toronto. So Cliff Fletcher brought me in, and Paul Baxter was assistant coach, Doug Risebrow. And Doug and I didn't see eye to eye when we played against each other. We didn't like each other. And he was the assistant coach when I got traded there. And then he became GM after Cliff left. He went to Toronto. And a year later, I got traded to Toronto. So how can I put this indirectly is that was an unbelievable team. And I was the first one to leave. I knew I was going to be traded, and in those days, contracts, everything else. But Al McGinnis, Gary Suter, okay, Mike Vernon. You go back on the D, and Brad McCrimmon, Dana Merzen, Natras, Jamie McCowan. They're big boys, and I'm playing with Colin Patterson, Joey Mullen, our first line / first line. They're all first lines, and it's like Neuendijk, Hawken Lube, and Gary Roberts. And then your third line, you got Joel Otto, Tim Hunter, and Kaplinski. Then your fourth line, you got Lanny and Yuri Herdina, and some young guy named Theo Fleury came in. And it's unfortunate that I got traded because there's not too many dynasties anymore.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, we had a good team, man. Like we were solid. We won the President's Trophy that year. Montreal was 1 point behind us, and obviously we faced them in the finals. And again, I can't say enough about the leadership on that team, and it was amazing. And again, as people in Edmonton, I apologize, but it's like they won their time, and we had a pretty good team. And unfortunately, it kind of changed when Cliff left, and things changed. So, but again, how can I talk about that team? It was a dream year, and you know what, we were good. And we always have injuries and different things, but it's something that it was phenomenal. Like, and the scary thing is in that year is we almost lost the first round.
Yeah.
And went out Joel's auto skate in the net, and it's like after that we beat LA Gretzky in 4, Chicago in 5, and then Montreal in 6. And it's amazing, great people in Calgary. I still have a lot of friends there, and again, it's something that I was so happy and proud of. Playing 20 years and getting the finals once, and at least we won. It'd be a crying shame at the end of the day that if I didn't win it. So
yeah, it would be for sure. Phil, you got more there?
Absolutely. Yeah, I see. Did you play with Mullen? You played with Mullen in St. Louis and in Calgary, is that correct?
yes. No, but I didn't play on his line, but Joey got traded to Calgary for a couple of guys, but they didn't want to sign him because he wanted $200,000. So you think about it,
Yeah,
it's like it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, when I scored the empty net goal in Montreal to kind of seal it, there was Rob Ramage, Joy Mullen. We're all kind of in the corner hugging each other because there's Rick Natchez came from St. Louis.
I watched that last night, knowing you were coming on. I watched that highlight last night.
Yeah.
So
you're
bang on.
There was Natchez, Ramage, Walmsley, Joey Mullen, and I. We all came from St. Louis, and it was pretty amazing when you obviously shut the door at that time, and it's something that obviously I'll never forget.
Yeah.
What was the feeling when that empty net goal went in? Like, was it relief yet, or was it more of like, okay, buckle down again here for this last little bit? Or
yeah, there's still about a minute to go, and I know Pat Burns because I got traded there later, and he was my coach, and they never pulled the goalie, and it was like we just kill the clock. And Crispy said, if you're anywhere near the puck, I want the puck. So meaning, if you want to go back on the ice for the last shift, get me the puck. And so I was out there for the last shift, and I grabbed the puck, and you can see it in some vintage cameos or videos of I'm giving the puck to Crispy, and he puts it right in his pocket. So
that's beautiful.
Nice. And then winning the cup in Montreal, what was that like? Like after the game, like only team to ever do it in Montreal. So
you know what? It was so weird that year because we split at home, and then we lost in, I think, overtime, double overtime, whatever it is. I think whoever scored, Ryan. It was, then we had a banquet. Okay. They had a banquet for Emery Awards, and Joey Mullen was plus 55 that year, whatever it was. He got an award, and we're just sitting there, and we're looking at the Montreal table. They're up 2-1 against us, and seems like they're cocky. And it's like, okay, let's take it back. And then it all changed, and it was something that, as a competitor, as a player, like everybody competes. Don't get me wrong, but just you watch, personalities. You watch how they react to certain things, and it's like, okay, it puts a little, I'm gonna say, a little more excitement in your game. Screw them. Okay, we're going at them tonight.
Yeah.
So
you go to Toronto, come home. It's a homecoming. Obviously, you probably, I'm assuming you probably grew up as a Leaf fan, so from the kind of the area. But how special was it to be a Toronto Maple Leaf and also be the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs as well too?
Yeah. Again, I didn't want to leave Calgary.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was great guys, great team, and I knew I was leaving. Okay, so there's a story behind that. I heard Riseborough telling somebody else that I'm trading him and whatever. So I walked out after New Year's Eve. We played Montreal. We won, and the next day I walked in to see Riseborough in the morning, and I said, "Well, I'm going to go play with Team Canada in Calgary. It's right there." And he goes, "Well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to trade you." So I knew I was going to be traded. So I just fast forwarded. So there's a couple teams. I don't know the other teams at all, but I got a call and said, "You've been traded to Toronto." And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm going home. So again, I'm from Kingston, Ontario, and it's like, I can't say enough, because you know what? You think this deal wasn't ready to go? It was 10-player deal. Yeah, so it's not just, okay, let's trade 5 guys and 5 guys right now.
Yeah.
So this was going on for the work. So obviously I was jacked, and you know what? It was only Rick Walmsley and I that left at the time. Kent Manorville was playing with Team Canada. McCowan was hurt. Natch was hurt. So it's just Walmer and I. We fly into Detroit, and here's the story for you. It's like, so I get in the dressing room. First picture they take, I'm wearing number 14. And just for the picture, the morning skate. So I'm not wearing 14. Not a chance. So, and in the summertime, believe it or not, summertime, in training camp, we played an exhibition game against Toronto. And I knew the trainers over there and stuff. And I said, listen, I'm sure Cliff's going to get me, but make sure Godinuk's in the deal. Like, why? It's like, because I want to wear 93. So when I got traded, Tom Watt's the coach, and Tom Watt was the assistant coach. We won in Calgary. So Tom Watt tells Brian Papineau, no more high numbers. So that's why I have 14 on the picture. And I said to Pappy, I said, I'm not wearing 14. That's Dave Keon, man. I'm not doing that. So I said, I want 93. And the other number was 16. So guess who wore number 93 his whole career and who's number 16 now in the Maple Leafs? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of interesting how that kind of worked out. But yeah, it's I said to Tom, I said, Tom, no, I want 93.
Yeah.
So when I got to Calgary, number 9 was a mustache guy, okay, named Lanny.
Yes.
19 was this Tim Hunter guy. Well, I'm not going to get that because I want a 9 in my jersey.
Yes.
29 was Joel Otto. Well, I don't want that number anyways. So that's when I went to 39. So
No, it's good, man. I think for me, it's always either like in video games or whatever. It's either 39 or 93, wherever you can play.
yeah,
Video games got restrictions on teams that have their jerseys retired and whatever. But no, it's pretty special. So obviously become a legend there. One of the great stories, I the pleasure to kind of get to know the guys on Overdrive, and I know you know Jeff O'Neill very well, but I love like him and Hayes and Noodles. They always kind of go down the pea soup story and stuff like
yeah.
that. Phil doesn't know
Well,
it, but
here's the story. I'm a GM with Kingston Frontenacs, a junior A team, and we're playing our last game is Sunday. It's in Windsor, so we were in Plymouth and Saginaw, and we come back Windsor, and then we're driving back, and he's driving. He's going to drop me off in Burlington, and he's going back to Kingston. Well, there's an accident, so we're stuck on the highway, and I get a call, and it's like, "Have you ever been hungover when you play?" Yeah. Back in the old days, it's different. Okay, you played guilty and everything else, and can you tell a story? I said, well, I was at home. I didn't break curfew, and had some wine and relaxed. And next morning, skate was optional. Went right back home, and I lived like honestly 20 feet from Maple Leaf Gardens at the time. So I was right beside Maple Leaf Gardens in an apartment. And so I made pea soup and a tuna fish sandwich. And I had 6 assists that night. And it was like
on fire. Yeah.
I couldn't, you can't make these stories up. I think Daryl Sittler's 10-point game, I think he had like, I don't know,
chicken fingers maybe.
Yeah, something that
yeah.
you never do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was the pasta guy always the night before, during day of, it doesn't matter what I wanted, but it's like the biggest thing that you can kind of tell every kid in minor hockey to everything else is drink as much water as you can until, and I'm going to say this, your urine is clear because you're hydrated. And that's how I knew when I was ready to go. It's like just pound the water back, and you know, whether it's Gatorade now or whatever, BioSteel, whatever they drink, but just you got to hydrate yourself before a game, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. So how did you like view your time in Toronto? Like, obviously, you know, there's a lot of I'm not probably the first person that's ever come to you with a story that said I'm a Leaf fan because of you, but how special is it to hear stuff like that? You know, and you talked about earlier, like Mitch Marner, you know, wore 93 because of you. And, you know, how special does that mean to you when you get to, you know, when that happens to you, when you're doing these functions now that you're retired and get to kind of get back to the game?
Well, you know what? It's like when I did my book, for example, after I retired, somebody asked me to do a book, and I said no. And biggest regret that I ever did, because my parents are gone when I did the book, so I could have had their opinion and everything else and more stories. And but it's something that it's amazing. Listen, it can go sour anytime, right? Mm-hmm. It's like if you don't play well, okay, nobody loves you, and the whole side of it. But it's just like you play this game to compete, and whoever you're playing against, you want to beat them. And after the game, you always have friends on other teams, and you see them, but you want to compete, and you don't want them beating you. And so, as being a Toronto Maple Leaf for 5.5 years, we had some good runs. Um, it was amazing, and it's just again, uh, as you move on, and all the teams are different and awesome, but being almost 9 years in Canada from Calgary to Toronto, I get traded to Jersey. So Dave Ellen and I living in a hotel in Secaucus, New Jersey, in the Meadowlands, and about 2 weeks go by. I finally get my car, bring it in, pull up to the gate, and the guy at the Meadowlands says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I play with the team. I don't have a parking pass yet. Just got my car." He goes, "What's your name?" Doug Gilmour. He goes, "Never heard of you. Park over there." I had to walk 1.5 miles to get to. So you leave Toronto and you go to Jersey. It's like, cheers, thanks.
Oh, man. Oh, that's rough. That's rough for sure.
And here's the other. I had a buddy. He owned Hespler at the time,
Yeah.
and so Steve Davies. So I get traded to Jersey, and I signed a contract after my first 2 years with Hespler. Like, I was using the sticks, and then the lease kind of took over my marketing stuff. So I signed with Carhu, which is Coho and Titan. So I'm using a blue, actually it's a Coho stick, but it says Titan on it. And so now the contract's done when I got traded. So Diesel calls me up, Steve Davies, and he goes, "I want to send you some sticks." I said, 100%. So he sends them to me, okay, white, red, and green. And we're black, white, and red. I'm like, I can't use these sticks.
Oh, no, you can't. Yeah. Oh man, that's hilarious. We're kind of tight for time, but obviously you had their stops in Chicago and Buffalo, and we got a lot of Habs fans on our end of this pod too. And I know we kind of want to fast forward there in respect to the markets you played there, but talk about playing in Montreal. And I know Phil and I were shooting the breeze last night before the interview, and we're like, what was going through Doug Gilmour's head when, and I know you didn't mean to break the glass when you closed the gate on the penalty on the.
Okay, I'm gonna go real quick.
Yeah.
I signed with Chicago Blackhawks because Bob Pulford and Bill Wirtz, the ownership, they called me and said, "We're going to sign Brett Hull as well. He's going to wear his dad's number." So I kind of agreed to it. Brett Hull signed with us 2 days later. Okay, that's not what I heard. Okay, so I got traded to Buffalo, and then I pretty much retired. 9/11 happened, and I got a call from Ottawa Senators and Montreal Canadiens. Saku Koivu had cancer, and I haven't skated in a month. So I think I'm done. The season started, everything else. So real quick, I go to Montreal, and it's awesome. And so we beat Boston. We're 8th seed, their 1st seed. We beat them game 6 at home. And then we're playing against Carolina. I don't know, about 7 minutes to go in the game. We're down 2 goals. I take a penalty. I slam the glass. I put my head down. And my thought process was, okay, this could be my last game I ever play. I'm not big and strong enough to break the glass, but I'm not going to put my head up because I'm going to pretend this didn't happen.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah.
So that's what it was.
That's what it was for sure. Final one before we get you out. It's been amazing. Life, time goes by quick, as we just said, as we're get the start of the pod here with you, but I can't let you go without getting a comment on our on the beloved Toronto Maple Leafs right now. They're having a good season. What's your thoughts of the season to date, and do you think this is the year that they get past at least the first round and make a good run.
Well, it's like anything else, guys. It's a good hockey club.
Yeah.
And if they can stay healthy, um, how the NHL puts everything together now is wrong. It's like
Not right.
if they're gonna if they have to face Tampa again in the first round, well, it's going to be a battle. And can they win? 100% they can win.
Mm-hmm.
And then next round, it's like I don't know. I just think that again, I'm not part of the league. I'm an ambassador with the Leafs, but it's you got to go by points.
You do.
And it just it only makes sense because you can't play the same team every year.
No.
Yeah, I mean, in the first round, and one of the best teams or two of the best teams might be out. You know what I mean? Like one or the other.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know. It's just I'm sure they're gonna figure out one day, and maybe it's top 18 teams in the whole league.
Yeah. No.
And it just it has to you play the game 80 games, 82 games a year, whatever it is now. It's like you play to make the playoffs. And so a team, say, in the other division is 15 points lower than you and you're not in, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. I had this conversation with my uncle the other day, and then Ryan McDonough was on with Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman on his podcast, and he said they asked him at the end of it, what was your takeaway from the Leafs series last year, and he said it was actually probably the hardest series that he's ever been in his career. And that's round one, right? So like that should be Stanley Cup final. That shouldn't be a round one, and we all love round one, but it needs to go back to the way when you played, in my opinion. So I loved it that way, and it felt more. So
it's just different.
It is,
and again, and I'm not being ignorant on it.
No,
it's just different. It's just different, and I understand the rules change. I get it, but the playoffs are a more compete level, and that's for myself personally. I couldn't wait for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, here we go. And you know what? At the end of the day, yes, I won Stanley Cup, but I had a lot of points in playoffs. I competed each and every night. And that's what you want. Because I forgot about this. Sorry, apologize.
No.
It's when you go to the playoffs and you lose, people don't remember the regular season. They remember the playoffs. So make memories for yourself. And that's what it's all about. It's like, show that you're a warrior, competitor, and go play. And it's, I don't know, to me, it's the best time of the year. You're all making the same amount of money. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Because those paychecks.
You're tied with your goalie in points. So it's like, let's go.
Yeah.
No, so it's something that it's electric. Again, the biggest thing I can say about the game is like what you miss about it. It's you'll never have that rush again when you go into the playoffs and you step. I don't care if it's on the road or at home. It's so electric. It's amazing. Like I had to go through therapy at the end of my career because I thought my nickname was Boo. Every time we got on the road, it's like Boo. but you're doing something right.
You are.
If they're booing you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, man, I agree, Dougie. It's so true and very well said. And we'll end on this. 4 years ago, I started this podcast to kind of help with mental health of myself and others that listen. And I grew up idolizing you, and I was crushed. I was happy when you got traded back to Toronto. I was crushed when you were in Calgary and you got hurt, and you couldn't make it to Edmonton. And then in which way I'm a believer in God kind of works some magic here, and you kind of got one more shift that I kind of got to see you play, and this was on the pod tonight. And I can't thank you enough. And all the best to you and your family and your kids in 2023. And we'll be looking forward to seeing more of the collaborations. The OVO is a beautiful one. So I think you're doing amazing.
Yeah, that's a Maple Leaf stuff. So
okay,
yeah,
we need to get Dougie his own one then. So
yeah, I've got my own stuff on my website and stuff, and it's just honestly, guys, congratulations, good luck, keep going,
thanks.
And you know what? Cheers for the Leafs.
Exactly. Cheers for the Leafs.
Yeah, and thanks for scoring that Stanley Cup winner, buddy.
Listen, I can't say enough about the Calgary Flames either. It's just like a great organization and a lot of great friends, obviously.
Yeah, they've been great to us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on with us. It just means so much. So
pleasure, guys.
Thanks,
Enjoy.
guys. Thank you.